In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yaibaram.
All right.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
Are you thinking of owning your dream homes? EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Yes, we are ready to proceed. The usher has gone to get the witness.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Touray.
Tinyang, Mr. Touray.
Good afternoon.
I hope you had a good break.
Yes, indeed.
And you are now ready to proceed.
Yes, indeed.
During the last session, you went through your experience as a magistrate, and you gave us some classic examples of how political interference was in the judicial system.
Na si follow nying jandim bida fonye ndingolo ya fonye janko ye yello ye ku men taki la wato mena ibunu magistrate odi andum ku akeno ra nyaadi le foda bulol keta na kirindri bundal do.
And how Jame used the military decrees, the APRFC decrees.
No akeno ra nyame mfanang ya Jame munafa nyin decree la nyame memu APRC la decree
to suspend the constitution, thereby robbing accused persons and other people living in the Gambia of their fundamental human rights. And subjecting them to the absolute mercy of the government.
Andung kanana ke dete de roni be kanabo menkan wala mazakunda lakang.
We will now move on to your explanation of how you spent your time in the judiciary.
Silambena tentenda damendo wala nyindi ko akenora nyaadi le inata ne la ko nyin tentendi no nyaadi le kadoko ke nim kiti bundala fannala.
After you were appointed as a magistrate and posted to the Banjul Magistrates Court,
biri tombong keke magistrate odi memu kitindir lati inarene samba Banjul la kitindir bundato memu Banjul Magistrates Court.
you were unceremoniously dismissed
Natane ita ye bondi dalila takang.
and then reinstated
Inarene murundi nando ko la kotenke.
by the supreme law of the council.
Walam council law lua sembo mabati.
And then you were moved.
Natane saundi.
Can you tell us where you went to next and then give us some examples of judicial interference serving as a magistrate in those jurisdictions that you presided over?
Silang hanin kabi foisa fona nyebiri ye bondije inarane samba minto le fona hanin kabi fona biri ye samba odinkira nyento ila dabulo kitio bunda nyinda fona la fona akeno da nyali andu ka kenyadi le.
Apart from judicial interference, can you tell us if there were any other people, institutions, or elements in the system that were at play in terms of the activity or the roles that they played in the areas that you went to entrench Jammeh into power?
Ninga bota judiciary la dabulo ke dabulo menda fo bunda dol fana mbejele me ya lonko wol fana dabulo ta ko nyin kono le pour ka jaya jamme makoy an ila do ko nyin kono pour ka ya jamme la nidia ko nyin ko timmandi aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's okay, thank you so much. I was next transferred to Mansakonko. And I was traveling magistrate covering LRD and North Bank, that is Lower River Division and North Bank Division.
Yo adun teketa mo kitindirlalti menkatani na kerewan tundo ni mansa konko tundo ntele marta bela nkatani na kitolla.
All right. Before I come to issues pertaining to trials before the court,
janimbi na kulu meni alonko waletilinta kulu la meni keta kiti kulti kiti bundala.
If you ask about institutions and individuals and organizations that capacitize Jammeh,
yenyinka roke kabirim mol bundalu doku bundalu ni mfana kotengulu meni alonko wale Jammeh sembentu ya.
I'll talk about the police first.
Mbe police lela kumo fana follow.
They had an Inspector General of Police
ye
at the time.
Wotembo ye moso to memu police la kuntonkoti Inspector General.
The late FRI Jammeh.
Tala FRI Jammeh.
I'm sorry to say, but he was a most irresponsible person.
Ali haketu mbafo la bari aketa moleti meya lonko ala duko sambanya jenketa bakele nungotumo.
FRI would instruct the police to charge, arrest and detain, detain and charge any person who has been reported to him to be an opposition sympathizer.
FRI le kanyin kangodi ko mo womondi ni akibaro futandia makomu opposition oleti meya lonka mantra Jammeh la pati okono asafo ya ala muta aliya kitindi aliya sorong.
I'll give you a case in point in Farafenye whilst I was there.
Mbe misali kilin dile la ko ketanyami mfarafenye wotumo mbije.
And another incident in Mansakonko.
Anin kudo fananata ke Mansakonko.
There was a complaint lodged by one Tafadiba from Farafenye.
Ikafo mole Tafadiba menata wasi kula membo ta Farafenye.
He went to the police station.
Atata police station oto.
And he told the police that his own uncle has gone to his compound. Apparently, the uncle had been went to Jumansar, if I am not mistaken. He was staying in Farafenye, but he went to Jumansar for a mission. One of the ladies, one of the natives of the village gave him money to give to her daughter who was then attending school in Farafenye but was staying in Tafa's compound.
Asa samba adingoye musoe kodo diatela pura asamba adingoye me yalon ko be Farafenye Tafala korda kono abirabi bar dindu nyimbita kan karambungolto.
The money was for purchase of school uniform for the girl.
Sunkuto nying anyanta kodo nying anyanta sanna uniform olela karambung uniform.
This gentleman went to deliver that money to the daughter in Tafa's compound.
Nyinke otata kodo le dandang sunkuto nyi ye Tafala korda kono.
Soon as Tafa saw him,
Brin Tafa yo mari je drong.
he confronted him, he asked him, I don't belong to the same party with you, why are you coming inside my compound? He assaulted the uncle.
Kumaka o men fo wolem nyindi kontenite mantara party killing. Muna nasilang ibedun na nasuokono, o kango kandrong aboita o keo kanje.
What party did Tafa belong to?
Tafa was a member of July 22nd and APRC.
Tafa mu July 22nd kafudingoleti aning APRC.
So he has attacked the uncle, but that time the uncle had a long sickness and was just recovering.
Ataboita barin kanjele, ado barin na moti da membo in kanwonya. Andu wayatara komanto nu we sasa jansoto bari abefisia kanu wotilo lukono.
When the uncle realized that this situation was getting out of hands, he left the compound and Tafa met him in the streets and assaulted him there.
Birim baringo yaje ko nyin cooperator kala bulufa quality de bitum baringo findita suokono atata mbeddo kan bari Tafa manna dangoto ay baringo bayindi mbeddo kan ko take atata boyin kanje.
After assaulting him, he went to the police and informed the police by himself.
Birate yo boyin kan foka pare ate fangole nata muru kata police ka kibaro di police la ko.
Said this man from the UDP came to my house and I assaulted him.
Ko nyimmari mu UDP kolti de anata na suokono nga boyin kan.
He told the police that he assaulted the man.
Ate fango nyine fo police ole ko ka atele yo mari boyin kan.
But because I don't belong to the same party with him, I want you to charge him, and if you don't charge him, I'll call the IG and inform him, and he'll get you dismissed.
And I know for police ole ko ntele nga boyin kande bari nali manyi muta aliya charge mbe IG kilila andumba fala IG e praya telu baido kola.
And thereon he called FRI and informed him that he must tell his officers in Farafenni to charge the uncle.
Andu wonoto lenga manda woto ay FRI kumandi telefonoto ka ko nyin sata we ka fayen ko nyim police men fele Farafenni jang ko nyin ketatenne adu e nyanta silota la nyim mari kamale.
FRI was not interested also in knowing the truth of the matter. He directly instructed Inspector Seka to charge the uncle.
FRI man kunyinin ka ko keta nyaming amalla fi fan ko nyi yesata ye wonoto lenga Inspector Seka kumandi ka fo yen ko ali nyin kendi mutali ya charge.
So no investigations were conducted.
No investigation whatsoever, and that was a pattern that was ongoing when FRI was Inspector General of Police.
Adu nyinin kar manke kisir manke akoto adu mu kuleti me yalonko wole be kekan dum di sinya jama wato men FRI be Inspector General ya Police.
The uncle was charged and was brought before me in Farafenni.
Ye baringo nyemuta ya tumi ya natinte nyati lingula Farafenni kiti bundala.
To my surprise, Tafa stood before the court after he was sworn in the Quran. He narrated the absolute truth that he was the one who assaulted the uncle.
Birinyin ko futata kiti bundala. Tafa nata lo kiti bundala. Akitante tere makwality. Ay to nyale for the akko aktele ye abarim fango boyin kang aya be sata ko be keta nyaming.
I was stunned.
Nyin ketante ye tere makubati.
And he said, he told the police that if they don't charge him, he was going to call the IG and inform him, and they were going to be dismissed.
And I nyim fanam fojele ko atele ko police oli ali nyin charge. Nali ma tumi kakula kang mbe IG kumandila andu ninga IG kumandi ibatelu be bailale.
What was the uncle charged with?
He was charged with assault and criminal trespass.
Baringo nyi ya tumi nyina ko atele ebo inkandiroke andu ay tonyandiro leke.
I was so annoyed about it. At the end of his testimony, I told him, I said, I'll make an order for you to be in attendance in this trial every day of the case.
Konyi yente fango kamfale fo ayakendi birate bandi satarola nka bitumbe sarto londila ite fango be kala moleti lolu ndingi be mabela le nyin kitola.
So he became afraid.
Wotumole manata sila.
He contacted the office of the president.
Ay president la office ay commandiro kije.
And Jammeh had the temerity to dispatch 2 members of cabinet.
Jamenata cabinet wolem alifalu men ya lonko wolle marata banko kullo sambola ay mofula kinang.
It was Major Bojang then, who was the Interior Minister.
Utumo Major Bojang atolo minister timem marata banko kankunya
Lamin Kaba Bajo, I think Lamin Kaba was then at the local government ministry.
Anin Lamin Kaba Bajo ngamera utumo beman sakundari ngole la bundala.
to come to Farafenni to try to investigate what was the issue. So there was too much, there was a climate of impunity that was being enjoyed by July 22nd members.
Tembo July 22nd kafudingulu tanabuka kela ye kuokundinke femfem buka boje kobe warali wasembo be warali nungo tumo.
And I must also take this opportunity to reveal this as a fact.
Andum ndefana mbenyi silo tala ko wo mu ku sotoringo letinu menketa
that the best corps of the Gambia Police Force were dismissed during the tenure of FRI Jammeh as Inspector General of Police.
Ko wato bo tembo FRI Jammeh abe IG ala tumomen wotumole ye Gambia Police kendolu Gambia Police dinkendolu meneketa dokula kendoluti yewlu be bay police wotumole FRI be IG ala tumomen.
Even when the British High Commission offered the Gambia government a package to be able to maintain the image and the integrity and standards at the police by offering training opportunities to the police.
Andu wotembo fango aninku benta British or England Banco ila High Commission bunda membe Gambia I wulita purka makwero di police olla purka police bunda ke karandi ka kunyimalu sababu nyimalu futandi police do ku bunda to me yalon ko asike police bunda la tanya toti.
The large number of police officers who were trained
police kendol police jama men yalon ko yi karandi yi londi la do ko la
able to continue the good work of the police following any change of government. We are all dismissed from the service.
Andu keta moluti men keta do kula luti wakilta isaita puruka tenten do kola bari wo tembo lemo mo kendolu be ye be by police.
Do you know on what grounds they were dismissed?
You will be surprised that even when files are handed over to the police to investigate,
Nimbekeletere makoti hani failolu niye di polisola purka foye alinyin kukari kisi.
When they investigate and stumble on evidence,
niye kisi roke tata sele kuka memu sele kuoti.
They can be sacked for writing the right report about what transpired.
Nite ye tonya safe kuo keta nyaming yo safe. Isi baino wadalilo fonkane kafoete tonya le safe.
The best core of the investigators of the Gambia Police Force were sacked merely because they have been assigned to investigate and they have, between themselves and God, written what they have been able to uncover. They have written the right story, what they have been able to uncover in the case of the investigation. But for doing the right thing, they were sacked.
Gambia la police do ku bundala. Menu karanta keta kisikisiro lonna no la luti. Ni ebula kisikisiro la. Hanufo ye bandi. Ye kuo safe la kisikisiro ye kuo men wanyari. Andunga tatake tonya ku sotoringoleti. Ibe mari baila. Kafoite ye tonya le safe. Ike bayo dalilo le fongokang. Ayasa wo tembo. Gambia la police kendolu. Meni ye londo soto kisikisiro ni police do kuoto. Ye be bayo tumole.
It reach a point when you want to when you engage the CID to look, to investigate any matter, many of them will tell you, well, I don't want to get involved.
Otemba tatale fang silang fo, akita silanya kuoti kulo polisol fang la karola, ikafo mene CID. Niye bula kisikisiro la ikalole kenabatu ikafo e mala finda bula la nyinto.
Okay, let me go back to Mansakonko.
Before we go there, Mr. Touray, I know that we've been talking a lot about judicial interference and the fact that the integrity of the judiciary is at stake, but I think from what you're saying, it was not only the judiciary, but the Gambia Police Force as well had its own independence, because as police officers, they were required to be independent in functioning. That was also at stake, and their whole integrity was also something that had also been
not only the
down.
Gambia Police Force, let me also take this opportunity to highlight this, even the Ministry of Justice.
Hana manke police da mantide mbenyin silo fanantala kanyim banke hani minister bunda memmarta tilingu nin kitola akuofuta taje.
I remember when Alaji Marong, Hausun Semekajane, and Esafal were in the office in the Ministry of Justice.
Ngakilo bakang Alaji Marong, Hausun Semekajane, and Esafal utumo ebebe udo kuola ubundala.
Can you describe these individuals you just mentioned?
Alaji
Alaji is a trained barrister. He was my senior about 2 years in the university.
Alaji mu baristal tikiti ndirlalom andu nga karanta le adu nanya tonkole mu a karanta university olto.
Himself and HO were 2 years ahead of me, and Esafal was 1 year ahead of me.
Atening HO ye sanji fula le kente nya janimbina adung Esafal we sanji kiline kente nya je janimbina.
I'm referring to the lead counsel here in the TRRC.
Mbe lead counsel le mamenka molu diamundi TRRC jamfango.
They all had a stint of career in the Ministry of Justice.
Selbeye wuchedo kule nung minister bunda la men marta tilingunin kito la Gambia jang.
There were moments when files were assigned to them and they were asked to write opinion.
Adung wato lu sotonta ika failo lu kinang iye ka foyonko ite nyin koje nyaming ilangani yo safeje.
I remember the case involving the Imam of Brikama, Touray.
Nakilo be kuo kang me yalon ko wale kita Brikama alimamo la kesti ikafome Alhaji Touray.
That was an empty file.
Wo mu file kolongoleti.
They wanted Mr. Marong to justify pressing of charges against him, and he refused.
Lafta puru Mr. Maro ye tumirolu safe ke lawo alimamo kang adu tumo wala file kolong le defenda kono bari lafta Mr. Maron safe rindila kolu la puru ka tumi ka dundi bari Mr. Marong ye bang.
And when these people discovered that it was press, or that was going to be the yardstick for pressing charges against innocent people, majority of them left the Ministry of Justice.
Mojama benyil kononka menu foteng birina taje ko tonton diro ke tonton ke bula kolla meni alonko wo mudewundi kolleti ke dundi kolu to menu manke kutilindi nguleti me yalonko si tamande minister bunda la menu marta tilinguni kitola wo dalilo le ya sabu wairi mam pare bula la kuru ya kono ye fonyo ye do ko bula.
And this was what created a gap in the Ministry of Justice.
It was later
filled by Nigerians.
And what is important to note, Mr. Touray, is that despite the fact that we have so many numerous examples of people who actually went by what Jammeh wanted, and they were used by Jammeh, but some people actually defied him and either resigned or were able to be independent.
Certainly, there were distinguished Gambians. These people I'm talking about stood by the virtue and the values of the law.
Tonyala Gambia din kendo lu sotontale wotumo meni alonko imam pare dunna kuruya kono andu imam pare jamme fasala fania kang ilota yela tonya no masata ayakendi dolie do ko bula ye fanyo dolu ye banko bula dolu hanni manta bari ye fanyo do ko la ye fansun do ko luta e continuete fansun do ko lula.
Let me also take this opportunity to mention the judiciary in the High Court at that time.
Mbenyum fanam fala otumo kitindir bunda la sako bunda menketa kiti bunda santon court High Court.
I would speak about one of our judges who is now in the Supreme Court.
Mben kititela kilim fola men yalon ko nyen tembeng abe kiti bunda about Supreme Court.
And that is Justice Mam Yasin C.
Willem Justice Mam Yasin C.
The state could not use her to take advantage of innocent Gambians.
Mansakunda ma adundino ka dokundi wala ka force puro ka tilimbalia tamandi Gambian ko lukang.
3 times her promotion to the Court of Appeal was due. They ignored her.
Sinya saba inyanta kala palaso la fa praita kiti bunda santon koto ba waire ambukasong tilimbalia ko lutamandila ika bali palaso nyina sinya saba.
She had to resign, and later she picked a Commonwealth appointment and went to Sierra Leone.
Wodalilo le asabu afana ye fanyo do ko la resign ta bari alana ta mako ikafasa anata Commonwealth la palaso soto wuli do ko diala ya samba Sierra Leone.
And can you tell us why she was sidelined?
Well, of course, it was obvious that matters pertaining to protection and enforcement of fundamental rights, especially bail applications, she would always grant bail, because that was a period when bail was available even for capital offenses like murder.
Abenda watu lefe watu me yalonko. Na luani sartolu belari nyaming. Isi molu bail nole hani meni yalonko fango ye mofake. Bari ni hani lua ye muta ni wati sita ise bail nole ye bula. yo bari wo tembo wala buka keno ando atamu mole time ya lonko pour ka otilimbali yako lutamandi atema mpare dun na wol kono.
And at that time, who was responsible for promoting judges?
Well,
principally it was the Office of the Chief Justice. They would recommend for promotion, and the President will exercise his powers under the Constitution to promote, to appoint you to the Court of Appeal.
Odumo Chief Justice la office wala ka saferoke pour minimum na palaso nyandatala bitun nyato. Bitu tumo ni o mari ni Chief Justice yo saferoke bitum president la office ole kana akuo sembentu ya puru kawo palaso di o mari la.
So this was an appointment that the president had direct power over.
Yes.
Ota munta council ka nyi mu palaso ti me yalon ko woto president ole ka kango bambandi ka timmandi sedo ko ha.
We've also talked about the term mercenary judges has been used very often in the TRRC, especially within this particular investigative theme.
Ndiamu da fanna la fana surtout waro men ya lon ko ke muna fanni kidi tela la ba fala men mercenary judges jojol me ya lon ko ke jole na ku ke me ya lon ko be mansa donne abetar la diar mansale.
And I believe the notion that most people have about mercenary judges is that they're either Nigerian judges or more generally foreign judges who are not local to our community.
And njikira nyina jama ni moli ya memu mercenary judges jama men ka mira nya wala Nigerian jojol lem waranto ka ke luntangol den mela ko bantal e bota banku do le kan bari bo ken na jam banku dingol.
Would you use that term to describe some of our Gambian born inbred judges?
Bo to sifa kino e bolo kumanda na Gambia dingol la mene alon ko be sirin be joji ala ke kan e be kumanda to sifa kino fana na ba.
Okay, let me disabuse the minds of the listeners.
Mbatu ngani ko la moir la luye nyoto ka seneyandi ya long isondomol kono.
We had foreign judges who came from Nigeria and Ghana.
Nigeria and Ghana.
Who rendered excellent, impeccable service to this nation. They were noble ambassadors of their countries. And the judgments that they have rendered in this jurisdiction will stand the test of time.
Fojal nim fawu lua ya fonyamin silo ya fonyamin yekito lutamandi wala nyama.
Mercenary judges were judges who were appointed on contract by the government.
Mercenary jojo lumenu ke fote jojo lumenu kado ko ke kodo kan wolumu molleti men yalan ko man sakundale yolu tombong ifay.
I am referring to the foreign elements of the mercenary judges.
Wolem nyinti luntang kitindir la lumenu ka foye mercenary judges men yalan ko e kado ko ke kodo le kan mbewol lemade.
But there were Gambians
who
filled the expectation of the profession. Judges. I'll mention 3 matters which I personally handled. They were all being handled by one single person.
And I'll
write his name for you. First was the case involving 2 Iraqi nationals.
And Mr. Touray, I believe we are now jumping into your career as a private legal practitioner.
Yes, these observations actually I had when I came into private practice, but I'll get back to Mansakonko.
No problem.
Around 2003 or thereabout.
2003
that was following the bombing of the World Trade Center.
World Trade Center 9/11.
2 Iraqi nationals who were also British citizens
were
arrested by the British police in London.
England police ol yolu muta London sate okono.
Their lawyers made representation as to why they will be arrested and detained. The British police told them, frankly, we have nothing against them. We have no evidence. We're only doing so on account of cooperation with our sisters across the Atlantic, that is from the FBI.
Biriya ol muta ol fanali dalila nyinin kake muna na ibe mutala. Bari England police ol yenyina foyen ko. Ntel manku soto ali kamma. Mantu mir soto ali kamma bari ntel be nyim menke kanteng amunta kanindiro le meya lonko. Ndoku nyolu ni menu mudoku façon kilingoti menu be Atlantic fankaso karadola dunia bunda me ba fly FBI wolle America la kullo kisikisir bundati wolle fanale la kangole munyintintel ba ke kangole kang.
So they released them.
Bitung wotumole inata o mo fulolu bula.
But nonetheless,
bari o nyawnyandi nyama
informed the FBI that these people are on their way to Banjul, the Gambia.
Ya nyina fo FBI menu America la kullo kisikisir lalti konyi mo fulolu ibe silole kay bita kan Gambia le.
So if you cannot arrest them here in London, allow them to reach Banjul where you can pick them without any problem.
Nalte mutanola London jang ali bula eta hanfo yedun Gambia ni dunta Gambia dorong alibe mutanola jele kokundinte bolaje.
The FBI contacted the authorities in Banjul, and upon their arrival at Yundum International Airport, they were arrested.
FBI yoli nyaton kolu commande Gambia jang kawokumo foye. Birinyi mo fulolu futata kuluntila jidula to dorong Yundum tap ye mutaje.
They were arrested by the authorities in the Gambia.
By the NIA here, yes.
Bankola NIA ole muta.
Then I received a call from the Amnesty International desk officer for the Gambia.
Amnesty International ila dokula memarta Gambia kolula wole natante commandi telefonoto.
Asking if I would be able to handle these matters.
Kanyinin ka fodu mbe okuota mandi nolale.
Who was that person?
It's a lady, I can't remember her name now.
Musole mun hakilota to mutanola saying.
I said I don't have any hesitation. If I have instruction from the members of the family, I'll take the case.
Nkaye minin te okoto ninga kangosoto kabonyi molu la badi ngulu bulu mba kuota lale.
After a week or so, I received a call from Baghdad.
Birin lo kilin nyon tambita nga kumandiro soto membota Baghdad sate oto.
This was a wife to one of the brothers who called me expressing concern and if I could assist the family. I said, yes, I don't have any problem.
Nyimmo me yang kumandi teng amunta ye menu muta teng kilindo koto mala muso wale yang kumandi onya abewasi kan kanyin kumolu fonye nka ente o ke miniminin tente la karola nsa ko tanole.
So I filed a habeas corpus application before the High Court.
Utumolo ngasaferoke kanindir bambandingo ke kanindir kolango nyilla ko la ko puru nyante bulalale ngako nyinki High Court.
Kindly explain for the purposes of the lay people what a habeas corpus application is.
Je faram fansi mole ban pour mol me yalon ko ban karang nyim file sifa nyim file habeas case yos.
Habeas corpus.
Habeas corpus.
Habeas corpus.
Habeas
corpus is a power vested in the High Court.
Habeas corpus musembelity membe High Court kitibunda bala,
which is is ordering the detaining authorities to bring the body of the person who is a subject of detention.
Puru meni alon ko lebe mararin ko law kitibundala isimonati kala ko banke me yalon ko lebe mutoko no itella karola.
Yes, it's habeas corpus. Bring him dead or alive, but it's the body that we want.
Amari abe baluring abe faring afureo wala baluring ala fintindinang alianati.
The reason
namari fatafang hana afureo nusula talale.
The reason why I had to file a habeas corpus application was that
dalilo me yalon ko ngo safer fasongo ke wala munyintiko.
I did my investigation but came to confirm that these two brothers were arrested, but they were not in detention in Mile 2 Central Prison, no in the NIA headquarters.
Ni aje ngo safe ka fo hani ifureo ali fureo nati nga kisikisiro le ke follow ka jube fanyi mo fulolu ibe kasola le Mile 2 ndata tara ko ete Mile 2 kasola ndata tara fananko hani NIA la sansam kono itije.
So we weren't sure if they were alive, in fact.
Otembo bitung amang koy mambe di boko no fanyulu ye fale bang febe baluri mbam mankuma koy lonje.
I filed a habeas corpus application.
Otumolo nata o saferoke ifata ibe baluring hanni fata ali fure oboni.
The first part of the proceeding, and that was the part on leave, was granted by the court.
Ko follow dula wala nyinti pour ila ko lanya wo kiti bunda nyim fango yoto tamandile.
You know, when you apply for habeas corpus, first you have to ask for leave.
Niye wo safer façon ke ka leave le kaning bularo ko nyin abetama la nyaming.
Then when the main application was filed, the state was served. The Ministry of Justice was served.
Birin safer ba nyim fango dunta utumole ya futandi minister bunda la meno marta kito nintilingula.
We went through the proceedings, we had the application, the trial judge sat on the decision until after the evacuation of these people to Guantanamo Bay. He refused to deliver the ruling.
Bring a waketa.
And it's a Gambian.
Membe siring akito kang Gambia dingulom bari aye bang kakuta mandije asita nyin kito kanne hanu foye nyumolu muta ye sambadin kirato America la kaso jawbale mjeti kafo je Guantanamo Bay ye samba woleto.
And that was
Sorry, Mr. Touray. Continue and then I'll ask you.
And that was not the only case.
Let me ask you questions on this particular case before we move on. Can you tell us what the lawful procedure would be for handing over of suspects, of criminal offenses from a national country to another international jurisdiction?
Faisa fono nye lua sartol ya landi nyadi le pour ka modi molam ko tumiri molam pour ka bondi banku to kata samba ka banku to silol tamande silol mo munedi ni sa fono nye.
You have to go through what we call extradition proceedings.
Foye tama silola silo me yalon ko wolem sarto ti pour ka momuta banku kan ka di luala luani luate maka bondi banku do kan ka samba banku do kan satra be luala maroko.
And we don't have any extradition treaty with the United States.
Adun telning America ma wo lua façon soton dam manglu tema akambenten tema.
And the procedure by which these foreign nationals, these Iraqis in particular, were actually abducted or virtually kidnapped from this country was unlawful. And I believe under international criminal law, it would be some sort of unlawful rendition.
You are
perfectly right. But let me add this also. Even an extradition proceeding could not have availed the American government. Because these are not American citizens. Only ask for extradition in respect of your citizens.
Ikawo nyongo nyinin ka mole la ko kama memu itela banko dinguti ka fonna banko dinkari ala mutaliana tinye wala liya dinna.
So let me add this also. The Gambia government was compensated by the US government.
Gambia mansa kunda inata buluma sayo soto. America mansa kunda ye buluma sayi kafo munana yo Iraq dingulu muta ke di America mansa kunda.
Immediately thereafter,
mubotala drong.
A satellite disk, a very big one, was donated to the Gambia Armed Forces.
Inata satellite disk walem wo boli ba men katiling ali hawala ka bantala banku television channel olu dundinang ite Maria yo di Gambia sojar bundala.
And I assume those are quite expensive.
Yes. Very, very expensive. When you enter the army headquarters in Banjul,
Fenda jauba ni dunta ame sojar korda to Banjul.
On the extreme right corner was where it was installed.
Ya ke buluba karola ni dunta sojar korda kono Banjul dro ya telepose buluba karola je.
That was a donation from the American government.
America man sakunda yo di wo dalilo le kan
It came after this case involving the Iraqis.
Wonata jang tumo me wotumo ye nying Iraq banku dim fulolu di America la drong wo mako yoro nata.
And the NIA premises was also given a facelift.
Andung NIA korda nyim fong fanang wotembo lem ye do ko lu keje pour ka
that was financed by the American government too.
Me alonko America man sakunda le yo fanan depansoke.
Can you tell us where you get your information from, Mr.
There were people in the NIA who informed me. I was pursuing a very sensitive case. Why am I interested in this?
kule main keta sola kuti bari munana itebe bulari nyin ko noma ngawkuma kangulu soto NIA ulubulu.
And it was the very NIA who told me that the donation to the armed forces
and NIA
that satellite this was a compensation for the cooperation that the Gambia government gave to the US government.
Wo satellite o me ya di sojaro lawonya ateo NIA kilimulu itelle ko nyenko wo satellite o America man sakunda ya di Gambia man sakunda la puru sojarolu puru nyin kamala ise buluma sayi dalilo me ya lon ko man sakunda son ta pur ka o mo fulolu di America la.
Same also sorry to interrupt you again, but considering the unlawful nature of that assistance, would you term that compensation or bribery?
Ari hanin kabiya jube o demaro me ya lon ko aketa au Gambia man sakunda mendi America la ni luanta ya abaketa luanta ya la kono fo isi mosi o fo non ko ka fo ko mu gisu nyaburangol tewe.
Well, you know, in terms of bilateral cooperation between nations,
Mr.
Touray, let me just stop you. There was no bilateral relations in terms of extradition treaties. You've already mentioned that.
Well, you may be perfectly right.
Council ka watumo banku nimbangkute manyo samba kute okono de muta dia kuya ka samba banku do kan sembo kan.
Okay, but let me come to the second case.
Let me just wrap up this case. So as far as you were concerned, this was a politically motivated case.
Certainly, of course. It was a clear aberration also of the rule of law.
And the judge in this particular case, whom you've written down on the PIS, the Protective Information Sheet, assisted in that unlawful act.
Certainly.
And Jojo Nimano Kitty Taylor Sandonko Nimeanko yellow to Safin Kaito Nimbalaja of an Barata Barala Lonko Luanta Yabaro my men.
Certainly, of course. And let me say again, he's a Gambian. So this idea that mercenary judges are all foreigners, it's not true.
Ha, ufamu meye oke, ufamu Gambia dingoleti. Ka foko nyin luntang kitindirla lumenu kaduko ke kodokan wole doro ye kuruya kijang hani Gambia dingolu dabije.
What year was this case?
Start
over.
It's the same year when we had our NIA diamond case.
Ateo sang kilingolom biringo lulu ko kibaro dunta NIA lulu wala diamond
2003.
Ngamera sekesangoti ka fosangme 2003.
Yes.
You said you had other examples of this particular judge and his activities surrounding cases.
Yes, and I want to give you two more examples.
But before we get to
as brief as possible.
Yeah, but just before we get to that, let's be very clear on this point, that the transfer of the two Iraqis from Banjul to Guantanamo Bay, Gambia got in for compensation two satellite dishes, you say? And
one.
Also one. And a facelift or some repairs at the NIA.
At the NIA.
Chairman kamenyin ka olem nyinti ko. Ye mem foten ko nyin Iraq dim fulolu menu ye mutajang ke sai ke di America man sakunda. Amunta Gambia man sakunda utumo man sakunda ye munafango soto je menketa wo satellite discoti sedo ko ha andunga manda wala ye dinkiralu sainkan doku NIA la korda kono adung America man sakunda le doku fanan dépense.
That's the allegation.
Yes. Wolem tumiroti sedo ko ha.
Thank you. Council, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please proceed, Mr.
And then, the second instance was the case involving Wajuara. Juara was charged for sedition.
Before which court?
High Court.
High Court.
We went through the trial. I'll come to the trial proper. There were violations in relation to the trial that took place in the High Court. But I'm talking about, I'm trying to beef out the, how do I put it? The issue of mercenary judges, Gambians being mercenary judges, that's the element that I'm trying to beef out.
Mercenary judges ka fo nyin kitindirlal men ka kito ke kodokan wala ko la nyan lafta fem fala woleto.
He was sentenced to a direct custodial for 6 months.
ya soro nyina kanko asitara sorongo kono kariworo.
Can you tell us what he was supposed to have said against the president or any of the government?
Faisa fo nanye ko sobo beje waran tumiru juma mun kuma kanne lata kan ko ay wala fo mansa kunda waran do president o mam me ya sabu ya soro.
Wara granted an interview to, I believe, the Independent newspaper.
Amunta Juara kachale di kibar kaitila membeloring a faye.
The Independent or the Observer, but he granted an interview to the press.
As the Independent newspaper ti wala Observer bari aniye kachaleke.
And in the interview, he made a statement, let's stick to the streets.
Ala kumwa kangokono ay nyina foje ko alinga finti ngambedolu muta.
That was the time when this idea of NAD was being when NAD was in its offing.
Wato lem kube finti kang ikafome ya NAD.
What is NAD?
NAD is a political party. This was in 2006.
NAD mu political party oleti men ne la ko fotanun 2006.
Its proper name is National Alliance for Democracy and Development.
Ato movement National Alliance for Democracy and Development. Wolem patio membelola democracy ni banku iruando kang.
So he was a key member of NAD.
Andung atemu moleti me yalonko abe alifalle kono wo patio kono.
Because at that time he also had his own political party called NDAM.
Andu tembo afangola fansum politic patio babulu ikafome yenu otumo NDAM.
There was something that happened in the country, so he offered an interview to the press, and in the statement he said we should go out in the streets and demonstrate.
Kule ketanum banko kang bitu dalilo kang kibar talali ya nyininka. Wodiamo konolem akomoli finti ngatam beddo kang kanna balamba ya itandi.
So the headline was, let's stick to the streets.
Amunta menketa kibaro kungoti kibar kaito bala wolem alinga finti ngam beddo lumuta.
So he was charged under Section 52 for sedition.
Bitu ya tumi bunda talulu ni fulo koto ko ay mansani mansa kundale doya.
And how was that statement supposed to be seditious?
Okay, let me come to the trial setting, what happened in the trial.
Mbatungana kito sambanya nyimfangoto kota matanya minkiti bundala. Mina kama mfuta mbina ajele nyatondo.
Let me just quickly deal with this part. He was convicted for 6 months. I filed a bail application before the Gambia Court of Appeal. And I filed a certificate of urgency. The application was argued. The matter was adjourned for ruling. And then the sitting judge sat on the ruling until after the end of Juara's sentence.
Adu memu akuo kitindirlati aye tau asita o kaito lukang hanufo Juara yo kari woro ke kasola fabanta.
The third case was the one involving Abasanyang.
Sabanjango wolem kuti menketa Abasanyang na kuti.
You have not told us who was sitting in that court. As a single judge.
As a single judge before the Gambia Court of Appeal.
So it was an application that was heard in chambers and not...
Yes, it was an application that was heard in chambers.
And why do you feel that he acted as a mercenary judge in that particular instance?
Of course, certainly because of pressure from the executive.
Why was there pressure from the executive in this particular case?
Because Juara, we all know, is an opposition, as a member of the opposition, and if what he was calling the nation to do at the material time, that was going to give NAD a very big facelift. That was in the early days of NAD.
Juara mu opposition moleti. Ando akamen kaning wonya ningo nata ke kuti men ketanung wobe nadu to bondila num bakele anu tumo nadu be wulikan ne doron kutake.
So this would have been an activity that would have had direct influence over the power dynamics of Jammeh and the AFPRC.
Certainly. Kula me ya lonko ninga ketanu abe kala nung sembela kula me ya lonko abe Jammeh nala mul abe jindila bakele no.
Ba kendeke. Abe toku yale silema.
The third case involved Abasanyang.
Sabanjawlem Abasanyang na kuoti.
Abba hailed from Kankuntu.
Abba bota Kankuntule.
He had aspiration to contest for the parliamentary for Fonyi Councillor.
Can you tell us where is Kankuntu?
Kankuntu it has virtually fused with Buyam.
Kankuntu nyintembeng saying faida animbuyam sate ula kulu dunta nyokonole.
When you reach Cancun, it's Buyam that's on the highway, so you have to pass through Buyam to get Cancun towards the river.
Buyam wole be manokang. Bari bitung nibita Cancun foye dum Buyam sate kono ye tilim bala ni ye Buyam ibe Buyam banna bitu tumole sina futa Cancun.
So they've merged into one.
Bari sila wairi katata nyola dulala fanokang hai saying ikafuta nyoma le faketa kilinguti.
But they all have their separate alcalos.
Bari be fansung alikalo lesoto.
And that's in the Fonyis?
In the Fonyis, yes. Abba had aspiration to run for the parliamentary. He was a very popular youth. And he had a very great amount of support. At first he wanted to run for the APRC. But that was manipulated. Because Kausu Jiba, the incumbent, it was believed has a close blood relationship with Jammeh. Some say he's his uncle.
Katu Kausi Jiba, member num palaso to tembo, eko anin Jammeh la badi ya katatanyola le dolu kafole fanko barin non Jammeh.
So in the power dynamics, they did not choose Abba as a candidate.
Kuolu tamata nyaming inata abala kuolu landi karala imanate tombo mprai lo dibite ya nyinula.
They didn't want him also to contest as an independent candidate.
Imalafi fanang ayelo afaye puruka dibite ya nyining.
Because the theory was that there cannot be any opposition in Fonyi.
Katu otumo ete lalano munyineti ko opposition manyan soto la Fonyi.
Especially from the president's constituency.
Sako president of Fota abota karte fai kabilo menkono.
So when they came to realize that Abba had mobilized over 3,500 voters' cards and he was poised to win,
Birina tabo nyinkala moko. Abba efero ketle hanufo karte fairan kaito lu wuli sabanin keme lulu nyong wulu kuleti menu dunta buloko no ando ya lonko ni wolbe afaila Abba nandu nyo keta drong Abba be ganyela le birite lu bodo kalama.
The youths were determined to stand behind him no matter what.
Adun funding ke lu parete le kallo Abba koma keta ko kondinti ba fasala.
They arrested him.
Ya muta.
Days before the nomination.
Tili danta janibe tombo ndiro kela drong ya muta.
I filed an application for bail on his behalf.
Na safero ke purisa bail atoyala.
I argued the application.
Which court was this?
The High Court.
The High Court.
Again, the same court sat, the same judge sat on the matter. And refused to deliver the ruling until after the nominations were over. So he lost the chance to contest the elections.
Which elections were these?
This was the parliamentary elections, I believe, in 2007. Because the presidential took place in 2006. Because parliamentary came after it.
President Carter Fayo kira 2006 and wokola along deputy bun Carter Fayo nata ke walanna nga America kira 2007 le.
And this again, the judge assisting in the unlawful interference into the election process.
Yes. And I must emphasize, he's a Gambian.
Kiti tela nyina na dabula kula men yalon ko luanta yalem Carter Fayo nyinta mandri nyar.
I believe that the term mercenary judges is not the exclusive jurisdiction of foreign judges, but also Gambians participated in that process.
Mundalla nyinla ko ni ko masinari judges amanda nyina ron ka fo luntang wala hani na Gambia dingol fanang wol fanang mosi kumandino idolu.
Idolu idabije.
Okay. And let me emphasize that all the foreign judges who came here on technical assistance, decently in conformity with the values of the law,
amunta uliela kulu tamandi nyama sarto kang tilingo kang aninto nya kang andu ye kulu ke ko inyanta kala nyami.
Certainly.
Mr.
Dabo and his co-accused persons could not have been acquitted.
Mr. Dabo ning amokotang luya ni menu tumi nyola iteulu bula nola nung.
If it was not Tahir who presided over the matter at the time.
Na manke nung ko Tahir le sita akokun na nung
Nigerian judge on technical assistance.
Wo mu Nigeria kitindirla altimenata kiti makoiro la nung nyimbanko kang.
Dumo Saho and his co-accused persons could not have been acquitted.
Dumo Saho fanana la molu iteulu bula la nung ning ayatara.
If it was not Belgore who presided over the matter, a Nigerian judge.
Na manke Belgore la kitindiroti memfana mu Nigerian oti ofana yetilimu nintonya tamandi.
And that is because the judges that came on technical assistance went through the proper channels, the proper procedures, they were selected, and they were noble and proper persons, qualified and competent.
Perfectly right.
And the mercenary judges, on the other hand, were handpicked and selected to do Jammeh's bidding.
And masinari judges ole kamenu kuma de masinari judges wonu moldat men yalon ko ye tombo mol kono le pour yena ye si na kiti yol nyati wala jang ka kuta men yalon ko wol betar la diaring Yaya Jammeh.
And therefore, obviously, independence and integrity was not part of their mandate. They were selected and appointed to perform a particular task, and that's what they did.
You are perfectly right.
Amunda wo kitindirlalu ye ulutombo wo dalilo le kang puriyena ye tilimbali atamandi jang kajamenga ni yolu timandi. Sedo ko ha wolem aketa wole nyama fande.
And let me also say this, the very first 6 years of Jammeh's tenure in office, there was not one single conviction in this country.
Mbafala Jamela mararo kariworo follow nyinkono. Hani sorondir killing manke mola nyimbanko ka.
Sorry, first 6 years.
Sanji woro follow.
Yes.
Sanji woro follow men ay mararo.
There was no one single conviction of any person who was wrongfully charged and brought before the courts.
Hani mo kilim man soto ye mentu mi tapaleya ni mfani ya kang ka marina tikiti bunda la ka kiti ndi kasorong. Hani kilim man kijawo sanji woro follow kono ala maralo kono.
At the time,
wotembo
the magistrates who manned the magisterial bench, Gambians and non-Gambians alike, that is the Nigerians who came on technical assistance, stood by the value of the rule of law. I think I can now go to Mansakonko.
Thank you very much, Mr. Touray. You were talking about the influence of the July 22nd movement boys in Mansakonko, and you gave an example of a case in which one of them was involved. Is there any other, can you describe more accurately what the scene was like, the environment at Mansakonko? Because this was the birthplace, I believe, of Baba Job.
Itartan Mansakonko fana no mo foga wala nyin July 22nd kam boys ol nyinti ila kan soto ka kul tamandi andu injikira nyinda ko be ko mom fokante nyimu dingiral me ya lonko jemu mo la wuludla de ka fo me Baba Job.
And I believe he founded that particular movement.
Andu injikira ko atele o kafo nyin atele o kafo nyin law.
We have evidence that there was a lot of display of power and force.
Okay,
point of correction. I don't think Baba Job created July 22nd. You will be surprised that the people who created July 22nd, among them were lawyers.
July 22nd kafo law ikono loyalu dabije.
Was he one of the founders?
I don't know about the history of July 22nd. I may be wrong, but I don't think Baba was even a founder of the July 22nd.
July 22nd la tariko malonde bari malala ate mumoti mentata kafolo la lufangulu kono.
But he was the leader at that point.
Yes, in the power dynamics, he because of financial influence as a result of the YDE, Youth Development Enterprise.
Aseke wakatawonya katu tembo sembo bitaka nyaming abelari ngole kanung aning na fulo sako wato meng atenata ke YDE la nyaton koti wolem Youth Development Enterprise.
But let me give you, many people talk about July 22nd, but they didn't know how broad-based it was.
Jamaka July 22nd la kumofu, bari malong adumo kono fanuta nyaming menu bakono.
The July 22nd, if you work as a magistrate in those days,
July 22nd, natare mukitindri lati utilo lukono.
We are deeply involved in security operations.
Ibulobe kanton in tankada doku jamal le kononu.
In every joint security operation of the sister security institutions,
Banko kanjang security bundalu fatanta nyaming ila dokolu be sambanya.
July 22nd members will be part of that operation.
July 22nd molu dakatara wokolu konole abukake koma.
Literally across the country, wherever you have a police station,
anata findiko Bangkok mumeo bekang police station wala police korda be dawoda.
There were July 22nd members who were literally attached to that station.
Sinyi lonko July 22nd la molu sotontale meni ya lonko wala do ko be o police station le bala.
So they were part of all police patrols.
Itarta police la do ku kono police lu ka kantaro ning dinkira taman lu menuke July 22nd dabije.
So coming to the scene in Mansakonko, it's true that Baba Job had a great deal of influence.
Baba Job ay kangonin sembo sotonum bakede.
All right, but it's also true that the civil service was at that material time seriously being threatened by July 22nd members.
Adu tembo afnyim fananketa to nyati July 22nd la molu ya mansakunda do kulalu jamale silandi do ku bundalu silandi.
So many people were sacked because they were reported by members of the July 22nd.
Ya mo jama bay ila do kola adu July 22nd la molu wolle kawlu la kolu fo mansakunda e pour ye bay.
In Mansakonko,
sfangoto je
a matter came before me.
Kunata finti kanan tekang.
In fact, two matters. One was civil, the other was criminal. The criminal case was involving two gentlemen, Silamane and Sekou Sedifai. Silamane is a supporter of APRC and Sekou Sedifai was a supporter of UDP.
Silamane be APRC le, Sekou Sedifai wabe UDP.
Two of them fought in a public place. So the police did what was right. They charged both of them. But I don't think Silla was aware that he was himself part of the charge. Because efforts were made locally by the community leaders to plead with him to withdraw the case, but he refused.
But
and what was the charge?
They were charged for affray. So the matter came before the court. We read the charge to him. And when it was interpreted to him that the two of you fought in a public place, his reaction was dismissive.
ay ko nyi mfango jabi nyaminga muntela ko amamuta fenti fang.
He said the police were not stating the right thing.
Ako police mantara tonya fo kang.
That he gripped Sekou, raised him high up and smashed him on the ground and he sat on him.
Ka fo ka te Sekou chikale ayo boyindi duma sita wakang wala ketala kumodi.
So he in effect pleaded guilty to the charge without realizing it.
Woto amunta waira te fon le dayo fo woto lua ya tele mutako atele to nyendiroke bara te fon hakilo mo beje nu woto mo.
We also asked Sekou also gave the same version. So each one was showing bravery.
Biringa Sekou fana nyininka Sekou fana saita okuma kilingule kang ko Sekou ate silla ya fo nyaminga amunta bebe jusu bengole itandikang.
So I convicted both of them.
Woto nge mo flo be sorong.
Then when the word went around that Silamane of APRC was convicted, large chunk of APRC supporters came to court.
Brinyin kumo findita ko Silamane membe APRC parti okono ya kitindile lua ya muta. APRC la mojamalu wulita menu nata kiti bula.
They came in their gears, APRC mufflers, t-shirts, whatever.
Biribina ye parele de APRC asobiolu adondikolu a t-shirtolu a kaminindangolu ye wolle dunginata.
I asked them out of the court. I said I wasn't going to allow party coloration within the precinct of the court.
Drove
them out.
Nge bay katunte ko parti la kulute tamala nyim kito bundala jang. Nge bay banda.
So whilst we were FRI again intervened, he said another charge should be leveled against Sekou alone. That is for idle and disorderly. Whilst I was sitting over that, I understand the governor's office was being, there was a lot of pressure coming from the office of the president to the governor in Mansakonko.
Nata nyimfanam fahamu ko. President la office be governor la office tonton kanne puru isikolu tamandiko ite lafta la nyame.
Hoping that they can do whatever.
Ye nyinjiki ko mendiate teliye wala nyanta kela.
Can you tell us what that means?
They thought maybe the governor could prevail on me to do otherwise and get Silla out of the hook.
Itelenyi mira ko governor bente sondino la lewandla kante falin ka yelemandi puru ntesi Sekou damantu me ka kuola wokang satara Silla botaje.
But in any event, nobody came to me, and I must also commend the governor at Mansakonko at the time, one Joseph Jassy. I must commend him. He's a decent character. I worked with him. He's a very decent character.
Yo adum itelenyi mira nunko bentele mandilale ngala itelikan. Bari governor membije mbaja ila bake kafome Joseph Jassy molem men tilinta aseneata ndunene na edo kokele ima ate falinno ima yele mandino.
And how did you come to know about the events that happened with the governor?
Well,
the police informed me because the prosecutor who was handling the matter was victimized.
Police le fon nata kumonyi mfanye. Katu kobe police mem fango buloko no kito nyintanya inata ofango inata duno la ofango kang.
And can you just tell us in general what the behavior was of APRC members or members of the July 22nd members at Mansakonko during that time, especially when they were involved in criminal cases or suspects in criminal cases?
Green boys warando anyolo inolankol ila ba manya nyinga kenu nyadi le kujao barola karola o mafangolo wato laje ikakenu nyadi.
It was just not in Mansakonko.
Amanke Mansakonko da mandi.
July 22nd was all over the country.
July 22nd ila umanya be banko karobele.
They enjoyed an absolute air of impunity.
Andungo tumo kubuka kela yeo kuruya ko kenyaonya ndi nyama femfem buka boji.
And where did that impunity stem from?
Ilo ku jawol ka ke kubuka na fintije okabona mintole.
Because they were literally part of the executive.
Atu tumo. Any
particular person in the executive?
Let me give you this disclosure. Apart from the cabinet that was lawfully constituted, There was an invincible cabinet of July 22nd members.
Ka tu cabinet do fanan soton tale me yalon ko mo me long mo bukeje me yalon ko July 22nd la molu da manne beoto.
If you talk to the people who were very close to the July 22nd, especially the high echelons of the network,
ni dia muta moli men ya lonko ye lodula nin kango soto July 22nd la karola o tembo,
they will tell you
iba foleye
that the only reason why the government during the transition was not penetrated
niaje o tembo falingu be ke kan o tumona niaje mo man soto no men dunta man sakunda kano,
especially influential so-called big men, why they couldn't penetrate the Jammeh system was because
sako molu men keta mo to bori ngolutunum banko kan keta mo londi ngoluti niaje man kuno jammela maralo bunda manum o tembo.
July 22nd had a screening network inside State House.
July 22nd ye korosirlalu ninkullo sungol le soto State House fangokono menu katara korosiro nin jubero nin kullo no masatola,
who would give the president advice on the antecedents of every person who was a major functionary during the PPP era.
Me ya lon ko wolle kata molla kibaro lu be fo jammeye menu keta nyaton kol nim place tioluti menu sako menu tata num PPP la wuchew kono.
So it was a very powerful movement.
Ola kende kafusembe ma balem July 22nd utumo.
And that was because they were linked directly to Yaya Jammeh himself.
Yes, of course.
And that air of impunity basically was because they were above the law, essentially, just like their boss.
That
was the order of the day.
You give us just one or two more examples of cases that you had before your courts where some APRC members appeared and this air of impunity was properly displayed.
For Hanika, if misal killing warrant on flood in the Maya Lonko, a Ketakuja, Baro, le Melanco in a day, Yatilon to Malaman, Munun Kitty, Telati, or Watolaji, Diamond Alonco, APRC, Mol Narana, Dundaji, Baro, Kebari, Haninkabi, Lua, Barkuma, Nafintila Court.
Yes, there was a civil case that was filed before the court in Mansakonko.
Moni motema kito sotonte mendundi Mansakonko kiti bundala.
There was this NGO based in Mansakonko called GADA.
Doku bunda benu Mansakonko je kafome ye GADA.
It was headed by one Kebaba at the time.
Meya doku bunda nyaton kaya utumwe kafaye ne Kebaba.
GADA filed, first they gave microcredit loans to women in Jara West.
Ika musolu makwenu Jara tilijiola je ke donto kodola menketa nying safar bundandin tioluti puru ke makoi.
There was a particular disbursement that was given to women in Soma in particular.
Ina ta kodo ta fananka makoiro di musolu la meya lonko aketa Jara Soma sate oto.
But these loans that were given to these ladies, the funds were actually mobilized from Village Development Trust Fund. This was a government project. GADA solicited funding from Village Development Trust Fund.
And when
money was given to them, they disbursed it to the women in Soma. The ladies refused to pay. One among them was the chairwoman of APRC in Soma. Called Nato Sediba. NATO mobilized all the women that because they are APRC members, they shouldn't pay the money. So because they defaulted, GADA could not pay the loan to Village Development Trust Fund.
Village Development
Trust Fund instituted an action against GADA before me in Mansakonko. I gave them judgment and we executed the judgment. GADA was compelled to pay.
nga kito nyin tamandi nyame nga kito nyinte adu ngalo ndi nyele kanko gada itele nyanta okodo jolale.
The executive, I think the board of directors of GADA
insisted
that they must take action against the women to recover the monies from them.
So will fanal natalo nyina kangoto ibe kuwulindila o musolu kamale menu balanta kodo jola ye donto menna puri fanal sikodo soto ibe menjola.
They filed a civil claim against them. They came to court. They all accepted liability. And we gave judgment to GADA. But Natu told me right in the face of the court that I was only wasting my time. They were not going to pay those monies. I told her I wouldn't react. Told her we have had many of those kind of statements from litigants. It is my duty to give judgment, and it's my duty to enforce the judgment also. So GADA came back, they filed an application for JDS, judgment debt of summons.
Bitungada murutanang inata samanindiro ke puru kango menga londi wonya julola jo puru ase sabati ayelo.
We went through the proceedings again.
Ndunta kuolu konokote ke.
And Nato again told the court, he told me in open court, look, Mr. Magistrate, you are wasting your time. We are not paying these monies.
Ateo Nato kilingo lota kitibunda nyati lingo la kafoko le magistrate ikela watu le tinyantel tenyin kodo jola.
I told her, Madam, I would not be agitated by your statement.
Madam,
we will do what is lawful at the relevant time. So when we concluded the proceedings, I issued a warrant for their arrest and committal in prison in Janjambure. When they were arrested and brought to Summer Police, July 22nd members and APRC supporters got up, reported the matter to Baba Job.
July 22nd la molu aning APRC kolu wulta kafuta nyoma ye konyin kusamba kafo Baba Job.
They concocted a big lie.
Ye fania ba city.
That it was Kemeseng who came to me.
Ko Kemeseng de Nathan
Jame, the then MP, the area MP.
Watembo Kemeseng Jamalem Tundo la dibitoti ye fania ba city ko wole Nathan tekang.
Sorry, they said Kemeseng directed the police to go and arrest the women in their rice fields, and they have been arrested in like numbers, and they have been brought to police station, and they were being detained inside the cell.
Ye nyim faniale city ko Kemeseng ye nyin kango di police lula pour kata musolu bayndi la mani farolu kono ke mutaji ke nati ke soron police la selo kono.
So they spoke with the then Interior Minister Major Bojang.
Wotembo ini minister dia muta memmarta banko kankunya la Major Bojang.
So Bojang directed the police to suspend the execution of the warrants till the following morning.
Bojang nata kango di police la ko waranto me yenyi musolu muta ya dem follow hanufo asamo.
But it came at a time there was a very responsible officer commanding the police, one Mr. Njai, I've forgotten his first name.
Barotembo aninkule bentame yalonko mole mentilinta abala duko tamandikang Mr. Njai membe police la karola utumo.
He was the officer commanding police training school for many years.
Atelo moti memmarta police la karambu la police karambu nying andung atartaje sanji jama.
Then he was transferred to Mansakonko.
A
very decent character and a highly responsible police officer.
Mo senung adum mole meyala dokuo bunya ayala dokuo no atilinta.
In the morning he came to my office in Mansakonko
anatana office to Mansakonko
to make inquiries as to how the warrants were issued.
I
confirmed to him that the warrants were issued by the court. He said the Interior Minister spoke with him, but he had no idea about the matter.
Ako minister memmarta banko kankunya la wole dia mutate ye andunga tebeda me ate Mr. Njai amankulu kalangolo membe keri nuotumo.
I asked him to give me the number for the interior minister.
Nkaye minister fangola number din na memmarta banko kankunya la interior minister.
I called him.
Na kumandi.
I asked if he was the one who suspended the operation of the execution of the warrants. He said yes.
Nga nyini nkafo itele ya kango di bang warrant kaito nyinyanta tamala nyami itele ya kuo demfolo ka bai bang ako ha.
Who was the interior minister at that time?
This was Major Bojang.
Major Bojang.
I told him he has no business to interfere with due process.
Nga yenye manketela dokute anduila hajuteng purke dabula kiti bunda la kuolu tamandoto.
Explain the entire story, how Village Development Trust Fund instituted an action against GADA, the action we have taken in that.
Nga kuobe sata e kabwa nyoto nying sate ula irua nafulu bunda nying ye GADA samani nyaming aning muna na ye GADA samani kuo keta nyaming aning GADA fanaludula nga ube ba nyoto.
And the second case, which was instituted by GADA against the women.
Aning kufulanja o GADA fananata musolu samani tumomeng.
I told him if the party, APRC party, is embarrassed by the arrest of the ladies, then let the party pay the money, but those warrants will be executed.
Nka na tara nyi musolu muto keta APRC party we maloti. Woto ya kodo nyinjo, weri nyi musolu betele la party okono.
So he kept quiet over the matter.
Biringo fired wrong, ayede kuala utumo.
I told him, I said, please inform the authorities above that we are proceeding to execute these warrants.
Nka ya woto menu be santo. Ifana yenyin kibaro folie ko nyin waranto luntelebe wo kangol le tamandi kangbe wala silono
that we will commit them in prison if they don't pay the money.
Kombe mutalale nge sambaka sola ni manyin kodojo.
What was the outcome of the case?
I believe that was the very day they paid the money.
Na mera ulum fangolo menata kodo nyinjo
because they had no choice.
So that was a classic case again of APRC members displaying impunity in the face of the court and political interference in the judicial system, but it did not actually work this time.
No, it would not work before me.
But
let me also add this. See, when we were going through the transition from the military to the civilian administration, there were people who had their own individual issues. They were involved in criminal behavior and they were charged. They used politics as a cover. And joined partisan politics and lobbied to become APRC MPs.
Andu inata kata puruka mabo politiko koma yekolu nyininke no masata puruka ke APRC la deputy
yes, they did so as to get impunity so that they would not be prosecuted.
Yodunke nyine kama niketa deputy oluti APRC patiwe isaje kute bola ila koto andu
bote kitindila
katu killing sotonta ko nyinkono
Churchill Balde misappropriated funds in Action Aid.
Ay kodo luta Action Aid.
Matter was reported to police in Bansang. It was thoroughly investigated. There was evidence against him. He was charged by the police. When they filed, reached the Ministry of Justice, they compromised and his name was removed. I give you another case. Wandi Dabo. A chief in Bureng, Dumbuto. Wandi misappropriated a lot of funds.
Where was Dumbuto?
Dumbuto is in Lower River region. It's in Kiang. He's late now. He misappropriated a lot of funds from assistance that was being given to Dumbuto village by a twin village from the United Kingdom.
Wotumo Dumbuto ye fulandi nyoma sate le soto menu be England. Katu wairi ye nyin sate fulolu fulandi yale ulukama ko irbale di Dumbuto la kodola karola. Bari wo kodolu menu kana betun afan Wandi Dabo ya afan muna fan wo kodol lela.
he misappropriated a lot of resources that were sent. Abdullah Koli, also a civil servant, the cousin brother of Wandi, stood up with some of his friends and reported the matter to the police. It was investigated. There was evidence against Wandi. Wandi uses membership of the July 22nd. As Churchill did. And compromise the case at the level of the Ministry of Justice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Touray, for those examples. Indeed, membership of the FPRC was immunity against prosecution, as you have shown, because unfortunately, not everybody could be brought before your court. So that's how it went.
There were so many glaring examples. I just cannot remember them all now because of the passage of time.
And indeed, there was another case that you told us about where you had a clash with the military at Farafenni whilst you were traveling magistrate there. Can you just tell us more about that?
Yes, do fana beje me alon ko ya misalo dina jam me mensoto mun magistrate de Farafenni ini sojaro le sey nyolo mensoto fo isi kuma fo no nyewoto ba.
Before that incident, all these issues were building up. So the executive they weren't pleased with my work as a magistrate.
Wotumo kuolu be kalaka nyoka be laka nyoka bitakang. Yo adung ntaka doko kenu nyamin yara man sakunda nyaton kolu mantara sewori ntela doko samba nyala karola.
So they had an eye on you.
Yes,
and that was because you were actually doing your job.
Yes. The fact of the matter was that none in the executive could directly confront me to say, do this case in this way.
But there was
a lot of interference on the ground. I was in Farafenni when the case of Kerr and Jame came before me. 5 of them were charged. Kerr and Jame, Siaka Sonko, Seni Sabali, Jenun Sanyang, and Malik Seka. They were all UDP supporters. They arrested them and brought them before me. And they published all their names under the detention of persons decree. They published their names in the detention orders.
And sarto kanko ulmumol letimeni alonko nyante mutalale koyo decree men dadanu mutamol la karola yetelbe to safe wala kono.
They said they were a threat to the security of the state.
Iko ulmumol letimeni alonko lafta banko la kanton in tankadale tinyala.
Was that under decree number 3?
Yes. Decree number 3 was
military personnel.
Security personnel, but there was another decree which actually applied generally against civilians.
Decree 3 wo tilinta service la police army ananyo do kotangulu. Bari decree do fana mbije me yalonko yo kono fanundile wo momondi si manole wala.
I think to be more specific,
ngamera puruka ala senayando tamindi janna.
Let me give you the name of the decree because I have it here.
And I know you've been referring to some of the decrees. Perhaps if you could make some copies available to us.
I will.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I know that we are way past our lunch break time, but I just want Mr. Touray to finish with this matter, and then we will take the break and then come back. Thank you.
It's okay, let me proceed. I'll be going through, let me proceed.
Yes. So you can provide that information to us later on.
Later, much
Thank
obliged.
you.
Much obliged. So they were arranged before me. At the material time, Kemeseng was poised to contest for one of the constituencies, I believe Jara West constituency in LRD.
Wato maybe na tilante nyatilingo la watumo Kemeseng fanga pareta lo la dibite ya nyinengo la ngamira Jara tiliji mansa konkotundo kanji ya laftakila wala dibite wote.
And Siaka Sonko was the head of the UDP security.
Alun Siaka Sonko le mu UDP la kanto ni ntankada nyato nkoti watumo.
And Seni Sabali was the younger brother of the former vice president Seku Sabali.
Alun Seni Sabali mu nunto vice president odoma leti kafome nun Seku Sabali.
So these were the people who were put together, they were arrested and charged and brought before the court.
Nilo moliti menu be muta ye kafunyoma ye tumi ye nati kito nyati lingula.
And they published their names in the detention orders.
Andu ye tolu safe dinkirato kamuta molu to safe dameng.
And they actually brought these detention orders and tendered them in evidence before the court.
Andu ye nyin to safe ngulunati le fananke fintindi ko sede ko le molti kiti bunda fango nyati lingula de.
But notwithstanding all that,
bari wolu be la lanya fanang.
I gave bail to all of them.
Not a bail.
Juju Fadera, who was the prosecutor,
Juju Fadera, memu kitindir Latinu,
was victimized.
Yasembo late kang.
That was also a very common trend. If you cannot victimize the magistrate, you victimize the prosecutor.
Nema magistrate mantorano kitindir la ekaduno la wole kang.
So all that setting in North Bank LRD was what actually brought me in conflict with the army in Farafenye.
Wokuolu be lanya ningatanya membe keka numanso konkotundo kanteka kuolu samba nu nyaming. Wole natake kamwali oti inteni sojaro lutema.
Can you tell us how you came to grant bail in that case? Because you've already explained the fact that most magistrates or judges felt that their hands were tied since they couldn't grant bail in these cases.
Kadu yenyi mfonye nunukoma ndo kiti tela jamal beje mengi yalon ko dumala nkol nga nin santo lanka kiti tela ulka jama ninyi tumiri sifal nate nyati no le tolka mem fola nyindi ko bulol be detere ninyi ite bail dino la mulla men yalon ko ye tumi nyim fannala.
Because by virtue of decree number 1, I believe the constitution was still suspended.
Decree number 1 ni sujita wala hankabi constitution and memu loi buku ba nyindi kaw jenken dikarala ike nyati den decree nyini ya memfo ikatama wala.
How did you work your way around that?
Saite nata na kul tamandino nyadi la fo nata na build nyi molla.
You are perfectly right. I remember the late Martin Mendy when the decrees were tendered in evidence before me.
Yeto nyale fong hakilo ye mo mutai ka fome Martin Mendy wato me yin decree sartolu natike landi nyati lula.
He was the defense counsel for these 5 gentlemen.
Yummo lulo atelmu lawyer at mello tanum woliye.
Those were his exact words. He said, "Your worship, your hands are tied."
Ala kumakang fango memfo. I memfo a fango da. Wole mnyinti your worship ibulolo besitirinne.
I said to him, "No, my hands have never been tied. Me, I'm a free man."
Ngai hani nte bulolo nena man city nte mu moleti membe mfambulu.
If you look at the decrees,
there
were porous. There were ways and means people can maneuver them and grant bail to the accused persons.
Niolu jube belari nyaming amunta ibe mantara sembering fenna. Ni me keta moti ye fon kalangolong isi silo tamandinole ye janke ite lawliye wala ye salang ye tilingu tamandi kaw molu bula.
I mentioned in the earlier part of my testimony that I worked with Magistrate Onya. We had discussed the content of the decrees and the weakness. So I wrote a bail ruling of 22 pages.
nga bel sarto kaito dada me ya lonka tata kaiti lera muang animfula.
And the government was stunned to realize that, in fact, notwithstanding the enactment of these decrees, they came to realize that, in fact, there was room for detainees to be granted bail.
Biringa wasafe hanufa kaito futata moluma anyanta futala menuma biri ya jube foye bandi itala fangolo nataje ko yo yara ferol ne silolu be keri ne molu simenu tano loyal simenu tano pour ka molu bel satara nyin sartolu hanni be lori nyawnyande nyin dikriolu isi molu bel no le akono.
And that was why I said in the early part of my testimony that if the case of Pasala had was given to me at the very onset, I was going to grant them bail.
Wala nanganyim fo komando nunko Pasala la case ni adina nunjuna wato menga findita kutake konga fo nunyamin mba bail lalnu.
So you use these gaps in the law in favor of protecting fundamental human rights and the rights of victims.
Certainly, because
the whole motivation why these people were charged was simply because they didn't want them to participate in the campaign. That was all.
Dalilo membelari nyimbe kwa mawale nyimolu man femfenke ilaftale nundrom pour ka dabo ndi campaign to campaign kana ke nyala.
As a progressive magistrate, you were able to see the substance of that rather than the technicalities of the law.
This is it. So we granted bail.
Amunta council kaya amunta ite ko lulanya jibe yesilo lujemeni alonko sila tilindi ngolo mo simenu tano kanyimolu kanandi sedo ka ha wala nanga bail dila.
But the day following they were arrested.
Bari asamo ina tanyimolu senka muta koteke.
I remember the master called me, master of the High Court.
Master member High Court, I am commanding telephone.
Told me, Borry, do you know what has happened?
Akonya Borry munayalo ne menketabang.
Told him no.
Nkai hani.
Said, do you know that the people who granted bail in Farafenya were arrested?
Akonya munayalo ne koe molu e bail di molu menu la Farafenya yesa inka mutale.
Told him he should be ashamed of telling me that.
Nkai nyinyante ete fango malulale purite yo fonte.
Because if I was master of the High Court,
I wasn't going to
allow any person who was granted bail by court duly constituted by law to be rearrested by the police. So he said, I must realize that this is a military dispensation.
Ako ayenja bi men wala nyinti ko tenyanta nyinjelala ko sojar kamule betama kambe sojar ulutumole kono.
I told him I will do what is right under any given circumstance.
Nkayen mentilin ta tonya mu menti ntebe tamala wolela kuwo kundimbe keri nte ujubela mbetilin unin tonyale tamandila.
So and after you granted the accused persons bail, they were rearrested. Did they come back to you?
Biring ite bail di nyimola fo inara na imura kotange fo inara ne inyati lingola kotange.
No, the case did not proceed. It was an empty file. So when they were arrested, even the state was not interested in pursuing the matter.
Nyimu ila file mu file kolongoleti fentije wala na birina tesa inka muta kota ke birinde ngebel akwonyi manna ata ani man sakunda fa manna so la soto akwonyi noma sato la kota ke.
So what happened was that when it was the parties were asking to prepare for the parliamentary elections in 1997. Yes, this was 97.
Bilmenna take wotumo wato memolu be pare kampuruki ka carte fa memena la nung 1997 sango kono be parendulol ke kantumo menna.
The UDP party leader said UDP was not going to participate in the elections.
UDP party nyaton ko wotumo la lota ko UDP te dabula la carte fa yoto.
Because according to him,
katu kwata ya fo nyaming
one of his candidates who was lawfully granted bail by the court was rearrested unjustifiably by the security.
Kato ala molu kono mo kilimbije me yalon ko yala ko samba kiti bunda la dum kiti bunda tilini unata mari bula babiri abula ina ta sembota kanyem mari sain kamuta kotake.
Who was the UDP party leader?
Mr. Usainu Dabo.
Council kai jumalon UDP party nyaton ko ti sedo kai Mr. Usainu Dabo.
And the IEC chairman then Gabriel Roberts.
Otembo Gabriel Roberts atelom IEC la sirantioti.
Of blessed memory.
Me yalon ko tambitale.
He's alive? My apologies. frank apologies. Yes. Gabriel Roberts then also took a position that if KMSM was not released, they are not going to continue to conduct elections.
Gabriel Roberts fanan nata lodula muta ko ni manke mesembula ite carte fayo tamandila ite fanalte kukela.
So the government was therefore compelled to release them unconditionally.
Bitung wala nata kende man sakunda man fere do soto nata nyimolu bula e man kula kan.
And that was the end of the matter.
Andun ko banta wala nyama fereng.
But despite the fact that they were released and eventually participated in politics, but what did that do to the general voters, you know, who wanted to vote for UDP, for example, in terms of creating fear and intimidation?
Ani kabi onyawo nyanyara de nyama inarana nyimulta ye bula puri dabula karte fa nyindo ye dabula je. But sa jamar hamano nyim men yalonko UDP kanuntele andu wole nying hamosoro no purga karte fa UDP ma. Fi silo nying maslango nying na taro kono o keda no nyadi le fi. A
lot of people were arrested and detained and people were brutalized, but that did not scare the opposition.
Ye moja ma mutanu ye dolu fangulu mutake tilimbali ya katajire ya kuolu kela ke isorong bari wa mamolu saliang ama molu murundi ko.
Because I remember even after the presidential elections, a lot of people were charged and they were actually arraigned before me in Farafenye.
Katung hakilo baka hani President Karte fayo bota la tumomeng ye moja ma muta inate tumi kane londi nte fango nyati lungu la Farafenye.
In election related violence.
Me ya lonko atilinta Karte fay kunya lu fitino
I frankly told the police that I was not going to hear the case.
Nyine fo police le kenebato konteta kito tala.
Because what happened was that they paraded them on the television and made conclusions that these were the people who vandalized vehicles and assaulted people and all that.
Kanyum fanam foje ko nyileye motolu tinya nyileye boyin kandirolu ke nyileye tajire ya kolu ke yofo ila kuoto television oto.
So I told them that they have passed judgment over the case. And if they want to proceed with them, let them get another magistrate to hear the matter. But that case, I wasn't going to sit over it.
So what eventually happened to those cases?
Following here adjourned date, they came and withdrew the case.
It
should also be stated there was a lot of fear in the government. Most people didn't realize it. There was a lot of fear in the government. When you take a position, especially when you're a judicial officer, many a times they will capitulate.
And I know that you've said that the opposition, perhaps as an institution or the head, senior members, were not intimidated. However, the ordinary people of the party, the ordinary voters, I'm sure must have been intimidated in the sense that they did not want to end up like their leaders in jail, being tortured, and all of that. So it must have done something to prevent them either from voting or supporting the party. It must have had some adverse effects.
Well, that's true. One of my own cousin sisters had a miscarriage.
Because in
the 1996 presidential election campaign period,
1996 President Kerr for campaign
the army was openly engaged in attacking innocent civilians. So many people were brutalized. Resulted to a lot of human rights violations. Yes.
And we all know that the commander-in-chief of the army at that time was the president himself.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Touray, I think we'll have to stop here because it's over. We've gone over our time for the lunch break. We'll come back and continue to the military checkpoint issue and other matters.
Much obliged.
Mr. Chairman, I hand over the witness to you.
Thank you very much, my counsel, and thank you, Mr. Touray. One quick question before we take our lunch break.
Yes.
You had mentioned the involvement of lawyers in the establishment or creation of the July 22nd movement.
Yes. Foko lawyer lu sotonta le menu dabe nyin kono bribe July 22nd kafo lola lawyer lu sotonta le menu dabe o kafo londo kono.
What was the nature of their involvement? Were they just lawyers participating in an institution, or they were the guys who advised the members of the July 22nd movement on how to go about establishing a legal entity, if it was indeed a legal entity, or were they retained service lawyers for
no, nilula dabulo keta nyadi le tel tafta molle kono men ka yama men ya marolu di ka follo nyoyala wala itarta kulu kono men ya longolem ka fota mandoti wala ila taro ko nyin kono aketa nyadi le.
They were pioneer members, and they didn't join the July 22nd merely because of their legal expertise.
Nyelu mummo leti men ya lonko ete leketa mo folo luti akwo nyin kono e mandu nje nyin kama kafo lawyer ya londo le ya sabude.
And as a matter of fact, I'm a member. I'm a lawyer. I'm a member of the Gambia Bar Association.
Kani ajube ndefa mu lawyer leti ndube Gambia la lawyer kafuba nyin kono.
But the hard truth of the matter is that it's regrettable. But the hard truth of the matter is that some of the biggest enablers of Gambia, we are lawyers.
Bari koto nyaning a bero fang momenti mo jamalu soton tamenu keta jamme mako irlalu ti dumala loyal lem.
It's very unfortunate.
Aketa ku kebaloti dron.
Yes. Why he was able to perpetuate himself in power, get himself consolidated. At every stage, he had lawyers who were loyal to him, who gave him advice.
Ni aje watu be aya fam bambandi no ka sulo dum mansakunda mararola karola ka fang ke nyin kubati molu kunna loyal lebe je menu ka ya mari.
Thank you very much. We will take a break for lunch and come back at 3 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
When me touch down, better broke down.
Gamtel G-Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
That's how she became mine and see that.
For all your pastry, bakery, and quality food, CK Restaurant is the only place to be. We do catering for birthdays, weddings, and all related services. We have all kinds of local foods, American, European, and even beyond. Come and have a taste of our local juice, ebe, and other services. At CK Restaurant, customer satisfaction is our priority.
Love like fire. Wow. Love like fire. Xam ngeen rek affaire bi xam ngeen fan la skincare la 2020 lañ wax de waaw fii nag mooy Kerr fan Kerr zero tache perfect skincare saa su ne rek niñ ko dee defee rek loo lañ soxlaati rek maanaam bu ngeen am problème ci seen skin yéen xam ngeen fan la fii ngeen di ñëw suma xarit yeeg am di jàmm yi nga xam ne taas daf lañ sonaloon xam nga doon xeesal bel la ka xum éneew ma lañ ko nag waaye just in case comme ni ko gars yi di waxee rek en cas just in case loolu xew xam ngeen fi ngeen di ñëw fii ngeen di ñëw skincare plus si yu baax rek la ñoo dox nag ay baax rek fu ne la ñoo dem ci réew mi di lañ indi rek nag products yu baax du Paris du Italie du USA du fi mu nekk nii sax boole nañ ci nag Sweden fu nekk lañ leen a indilee products bu dee tamit nag da nga ñuul rek ñu lay jamaa natural beauty that melanin dripping we do have stuff for you as well emuñ si skincare products rek ñu ngi ci cuub yi tamit fu ne la ñoo jaar in fact sax last commercial bi ñu defoon waxuñ leen woon dañoo dox ci ay kawar 9A grade rek nag waaw we do have bundles as well hair si lu ne la ñoo dox ñun ñu ngi ci rafetal jigéen rek luy taaral jigéen rek waaw boo leen di tukki tamit bëggoon rek classic suitcase ñu dañoo dox ci ay Samsonite duñ dee indi any brand of suitcases though other than Samsonite comme li ma dee wax rek boo eggee airport diri Samsonite dafa am nuñ laa xoolee waaw ngeen ne lan nag waaw skin ci moom la ñu gën a xamee nag skin care products ci moom la ñu gën a xamee ñu ngi dox tamit bentee tamit si ay dàlla man waaye man nag skin care mooy suma specialty xam nga rek jigéen bu sa xar kanam réglé loo def mu jag am nañ Patricia Reiner Kiwi Eye the whole range Lighten Up Gold Tomatine I mean the list can just go on and on and on and on lépp loo xam ne rek luy taaral jigéen la ci yooyu rek la ñoo dox skin care plus nag emuñ si Gambia rek ñu ngi United States ñu ngi Gambia fii ba pare bu dee yaa ngi anywhere in Europe mun nañ la ko mail within 3 days rek ñetti fan rek nga jot say diw emuñ si loolu rek dañ laa consult tamit balaa ñu laa jaay diw dinañ def a free consultation pour wax la rek exactly li nga xam ne moo méngoo ak sa kanam dinañ leen wax tamit ne rek am nañ perfumes you know fragrances men's shirts accessories we do dresses as well we do blouses I mean we do shoes name it we do them Skincare Plus 2020 is our year of perfection zero task fi mu nekk nii réew mi fii kenn waratu fi taas kenn waratu fi am problème kanam kenn waratu fi am problème yu picca boo ko amee dafa fekk ne rek ñëwuloo ci place bi fii